The Walther PDP F Pro is a compact for compact people. With a shorter trigger reach and shorter overall diameter, it is an easier gun for smaller hands to shoot. This has some upgrades from the regular PDP F. Coming up in the shooting impressions, you will see my absolute first shots through the gun. We'll do full magazine +1 to see how these run fully stuffed. Take it to our trademark What's for Dinner table to see if the gun will eat. Over to the spinner for sights and trigger control, which should be fun. Do some practical accuracy and then give you concluding thoughts. All coming up next on Looking forward to this one. If you're curious, it's about 40 degrees and foggy out. Beautiful morning here in the Pacific Northwest. Let's get to it on the PDP-F. Got our Thor targets A-zone out there, about 25 yards away. Something a little challenging for a warm-up. 10 rounds of MagTech 115 grain. See how this little guy runs. Absolute first shots. Dead center first hit. I'll take that. And of course I missed. And again. Sights might be off a little bit on this. We'll find out more when we get over to the paper. So generally when you have a small pistol like this with a short barrel, you end up with high slide velocity and you end up with some sharp recoil that can be a little rough. However, this having a mag welt on it allows me to get my whole hand on there, and so I'm having a pretty easy time managing the recoil. It is still a lively gun, but very comfortable to shoot. I think I'm going to enjoy this. Next up is full magazine +1, where we see how the mags run fully stuffed, and these sleeves on the bottom, or these bottom base plates, because they are not a sleeve, they're actually part of the base plate, are not an extension. They are just to make sure you don't over insert the magazine. So they hold 18 rounds. But with that in there, we now have 19 rounds on tap, and it goes in without much fight, which is a plus. Good job, Walther. Oftentimes, some gun makers anyways, the +1, putting a stuffed mag into a closed slide can be a little tight. Seems to work on here. I'm going to dump into the berm and see what I can get for speed and rhythm on this thing. Very controllable. What I saw seemed to be a pretty even and smooth brass pattern. I know a lot of people think that has to do with the extractor and ejector. A wee bit. It has more to do with slide velocity, how hard that empty casing is ramming against that ejector to get kicked out. So what we've really just seen there is the gun's good, but more importantly that the ammo is also very consistent. That's really what you're seeing on that out of a semi-auto handgun. So far so good. Let's take over the What's for Dinner table and see what it eats. It's that time again. What's for dinner time? As I roll past these, you'll see that we're going from 65 grain up to 165 grain today. Each of these loads has a different bullet profile and shape, overall loaded length. We've got different case materials, projectile types, etc. We're looking to see, what will the gun eat? Will it feed from side lock? Will it cycle and load another round of the same type under its own power? And will it lock open on empty? Testing beyond the 3 rounds that we're doing today would let us know if the magazine's compatible with the ammo, but we don't have time or resources for that. So if you want to try any of these, check the pinned comment, and I will list sources for these loads over in the full review. What's for Dinner is done from 7 yards on some 2-inch circles, just to have a general aiming point. Really what we're looking to see is, how's the gun run with this ammo? Is there any ammo that you might want to favor or avoid? We're starting off our lightest 65 grain +P Novex. Remember, +P is generally used to compensate for suboptimal barrel length. SAMI spec for 9mm, a 4-inch barrel. This is a 3.5. So +P it is. See how it does on circle number 1. Flashy. Holy crud. I hope the camera caught that. Yeah, very smooth, very soft shooting, but definitely bright in the face. And impacts were a little low. We'll see if that continues through the other bullet weights. And that'll tell us if the sights were maybe a little bit off when I was trying for A-zone at 25 yards, first time shooting the gun. Next load is Federal 70 grain American Eagle. This is their range trainer lead-free stuff. Great if you want to have lungs after lots of shooting. And that's a second load, also hitting low, but it was very comfortable to shoot in this gun. Once we hit 115 grain, if I'm still hitting noticeably low, then I'll go adjust the sights, and then we'll continue. Next up, Koenig 110 grain jacketed hollow point. Supposed to be a competition load, but whoops. Did I not get slide lock on the last one? Maybe I didn't. I'll have to look at the footage, so maybe that load is too soft for this gun. But these Koenig 110s are supposed to be competition, but I've had issues with them. Some of them seem to be loaded a little bit long, and so guns with tighter chambers don't like them, even though it's only 110 grain. Less bassy. Easy to shoot. Didn't get slide lock again, and I know what happened. It's not the gun, it's me. My thumb is resting right there on the slide lock lever. That is something that happens to me with Walthers and Canics with their nice long slide release lever. Plus, with this having a smaller grip diameter and me wearing double XL gloves, my thumb is getting up there. So I'll make a conscious effort to not do that on future loads. That was still slightly lower hitting, but not too bad. Now we've got a true 115 SIG Elite Defense V-Crown. Keeping my thumb off that slide lever. A little more recoil with this load. It's snappy, but not bad. Hard to tell on the low thing. This is annoying, but it's the process. Next up, we've got some Blazer aluminum 115 grain. If you guys have not seen the music video as to why we use aluminum and steel, you really need to. That's over on Rumble. Should get a new director. The visuals are pretty lame in that video, but the song's all right. Punchy recoil, but otherwise comfortable shooting, performed well. Now we're moving back to SIG Elite V-Crown with the 124 grain. This stuff in our test did some pretty serious energy, so it's something worth looking into. See how it runs in the PDP F Pro. Getting a lot more muzzle flip with this load. Still hitting a wee bit low. I think I'll need to eventually adjust these sights. But for now, we're just looking at function, and really, I don't need to adjust it at all for the rest of this review. It's not terribly off. I'm not gonna be shooting A-zone 25-yard shots anymore in the video. Next up, 130 grain Federal PCC load. This is a Syntec load, that's why it's red. This stuff is a slow burner meant for longer barrels. Since the 16-inch barrel at the PCC, it's actually longer than what's ideal for 9mm and tends to slow bullets down more than if it was a shorter barrel. So not meant for a little 3.5-incher, but it's fun. And if you guys love to shoot ported guns, this PCC load is very effective in ports because there's plenty of gas. Circle 7. Yeah, this is softer shooting. Not bad. Now we're moving on to Winchester PDX Defender, PDX 1. I don't know if it's meant for the Portland crowd or not, but it is a little bit snappy. 147 grain. Definitely more push in the recoil there, but dare I say more comfortable. It was more push, less snap. Certainly comfortable enough to shoot. We'll compare it right quick with the Fiocchi Defense Dynamics 147 grain jacketed hollow point for circle number 9, sorry. I think I liked the Winchester better, which is interesting. And then our heaviest load, 165 grain, is the Stolf not stealth, there's no A. From Ammo Inc. This is meant for shooting suppressed. Nice, clean, nice, slow, quiet bullets. It's also silly fun to shoot in a regular handgun without a suppressor, because it tends to be very low recoil. Yep. Easy running. Didn't group as well though. And that ammo isn't necessarily smoky. It's just, that's the dew point and temperature that we have out here. Pretty comfortable. I think I'm confident enough with point of aim to not adjust the sights before we take it over to the spinner for sights and trigger control. I'm back about 15 yards away from that 6-inch spinner. Use this target for sights and trigger control because it's a small target at distance, and as I hit it, it starts to move. If I want to flip it over to the top, I've got to time well-placed shots, which is a great test of sights and trigger control. Now, this is obviously a shooter skill thing, but the gun can make it easier or more difficult. I have 8 rounds of that MagTech 115 grain. If you're curious about how the MagTech is as far as energy, check my 9mm range ammo guide over on my site. This is being a 3.5-inch barrel. We do have a disadvantage, but we've got a nice trigger and sights that I think I've figured out. Obviously, the trigger was very predictable, very easy to time those shots. Got the sights figured out. Even though these aren't my favorite sights, they're good enough. And of course, this thing is optics ready for those of you that like to shoot in fair weather. The trigger brake was great. I could time those hits easy enough. I don't think we got it over the top simply because we didn't have enough energy. We've got a disadvantage of a less than 4-inch barrel, and MagTech 115, probably not the hottest stuff out there. But as far as the real purpose of what I just did, testing sights and trigger control, excellent job, Walther, as always, as we've come to expect. Some of you may be curious about this trigger because it looks like the Walther Dynamic Performance trigger, or whatever that thing's called. I talked about that in the tabletop. I have one of those triggers that I purchased and then installed into another PDP, and that trigger feels different from this, but this does feel different from the standard PDP trigger. It's sort of like a middle ground in between. So this is not, it's a weight that is still appropriate for carry. It's not quite a competition crazy trigger, and yet it's still nicer than a standard PDP trigger. So I think that's also an excellent job done by Walther, since this pistol is obviously meant to be something of a carry variety. Now let's do some practical accuracy. Practical accuracy is exactly what it's called. It's being practical. So I'm using a basic range ammo. I'm going to stand free-handed from 7 yards, aiming at a 1-inch square. Now that 1-inch square tends to be about the same width of a front sight post, which really makes for a great aiming spot. This is shooter skill with ability to learn the gun, somewhat also the gun, but really it's where I collect my concluding thoughts, which are the next segment. Funny how that works. All right. And I'm going to aim perfectly on that square. We'll see if we really are hitting low. I'll take it. No slide lock, because once again my thumb was resting on that. But pretty happy with that group. What do we get with the PDP F Pro? Well, we get Walther quality, Walther design and excellence. We get a crisper trigger. We get a grip that holds 18 rounds easily, and a nice mag well to help trap hands on there. If you don't have mammoth hands, then you're still going to find a place to rest your pinky finger. It's just, for me, it helps keep me from getting pinched on inserts. The shorter reach for the trigger, that works better for smaller hands to get well placed. I've got banana hands and I can still run this gun because of experience. I did not change the back straps. So it's a gun for everyone. I think when the PDP F line first came out, the marketing hit a little too hard on the female side. I know women with large hands, I know men with small hands. It's really just a PDP for folks with smaller hands. And as we saw, it definitely because of the shorter reach, moves that slide lock release lever back further. So I had issues resting on it, but I have issues resting on it with standard Walthers anyways. If you've got smaller hands, this is going to be one that is very easy for you to control and use. So I appreciate that, respect that. Very cool of Walther to do, especially if you consider the fact that, well, some German manufacturers are known for making absurdly large guns. I don't know if you ever tried to run a G3 or any of those, but heck, even the MP5, some of the controls are really quite a reach, even with my hands. So Walther has made that a little more achievable for everyone else. And I pointed it out before in the tabletop. I'm gonna do it again. Something's missing right there. And this backwards camera thing is difficult. That's interesting. Don't have an answer from Walther yet, but I believe this is now an American Walther, which is kind of funny because I drove here in my Volkswagen Atlas, which is an American designed and built Volkswagen. So, America's taken over? I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are on the PDP F Pro. I think it's a pretty cool piece, a nice tweener gun in that it is definitely a carry piece, but it's a performance carry piece. And I think that's a perfect thing for a company like Walther to have. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
GBGuns in a 2-2 level. Andrew P. chosen tyranny, algae. Peter A. Tom Moses S. Fast Steady. Donald Wood, White Fine, Brian P. Scott King, Derek S. Jr. Thanks for the tip level.